What other studies have you got here at the moment?
Yeah. As it is, when you're maybe a bit more of a senior researcher, a lot of the research is based upon what your PhD students are doing. So I'll just quickly go through a couple of them. We have one PhD student, Paul Sandermas, is working on the sprint start in athletics. And really fun question, I think. A lot of the research that's been done on sprinting has been sagittal plane, so two-dimensional just from the side. But if you look at the sprint start from the front, you can see that the first couple of steps, they step outwards a lot. And he's calling it the skating style start. And his whole question is basically, why do they do that? And is there an advantage, or is it just something that happens and it doesn't really help them? And it's sort of tending towards that it's not a disadvantage, but we at the moment haven't seen any biomechanical advantage of it either. But that's already an interesting result, because trainers actually, just from personal communication, sometimes tell their sprinters to try and avoid it, because everything that's not in the sagittal plane must be ineffective. But what Paul's shown is that it's not an advantage, like I said, but it's, as we can see it, not a disadvantage either. So they should be able to continue with that. Then I have another PhD student, Tiago Sharks. He's from Brazil. And he's looking at not just asymmetrical movements and kinematics and forces of the left and the right leg, with a sort of background question of, is this a problem for injuries? But he's looking at asymmetries in the musculotendinous structures and properties. So not just the external kinematics and forces, but actually what's the difference in the Achilles tendon or the triceps surae in a mechanical function and properties, and is that reflected in how they move, and which one is dependent on which? Still at the start of writing up his articles there, but really interesting question, because I don't like those intuitive thought that being asymmetrical is bad. Yeah. It means that you're going to get hurt. And so what he's looking at is not just the external asymmetries, but internally what's actually happening on the structural level, which I think that's really exciting. And then a group that's getting really strong, not only within our biomechanics laboratory, but also already in the whole university, is a group on para sports, Paralympics.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we've got both in kayak sports and lately in cycling as well, looking at the classification of para athletes. And it's really exciting. We've got Anna Bjerkefors and Carla Nguyen, and then two PhD students, Johanna Rosén and Johanna Liljedahl. It's always easy because they're both Johanna. And what they've managed to do is, through improving and defining a new classification system of para-kayak athletes, they've got the sport into the Paralympics. So before that it wasn't in there. In Brazil they included para-kayak into the Paralympics due to the classification system that's come from here.
Oh.
So that was really exciting, and they've got a lot of international recognition for that as well. And now for the next Olympics in Tokyo, they've got a new discipline within para-kayak, also included due to the classification system. So they're really doing well internationally there.
That's really cool.
And then lately we've started on paracycling as well. Yeah. With the same intention, the Paralympic Committee has stated that the classification system for cycling is not good enough. So they don't want to get rid of cycling because it's a big sport. They can't just easily get rid of it. But they say that there is a big pressure on the UCI, the International Cycling Federation, to improve it. And we've got that job together with the University in Amsterdam, actually. So we're doing combined work on that. Also working on the classification system. So real fun stuff there. A lot of biomechanics, and it's also a lot of knowledge that's required within the classification system, how they work, which for me is quite new, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And they're doing really well, so yeah. I think there's a big future for para sports research here.
And then there's an ongoing project right next door in the lab next door.
Yes.
And it's about female soccer injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we have a look at it?
Yeah, it's a master's project which just happens to be set up next door, so that's obviously what we can look at today. The master student Michel Darlin is himself a physical coach for a women's football team, And I think it's pretty standard knowledge that women football players have pretty big problems with knee problems and knee injuries, in particular anterior cruciate ligament injuries. And so what he's looking at is a movement that they do during football games, which is a very dynamic change of direction, and looking at the kinematics or the biomechanics of the knee, and in particular the activity of the quadriceps during this change of direction. And he's correlating it to a measure of the quadriceps eccentric muscle strength in an isokinetic dynamometer. And so what we can look at later is the isokinetic dynamometer, where they have a very quick movement towards them. They have to try and catch it with their leg, which is roughly the same speed that the change of direction occurs at. So we're trying to correlate the function during the actual movement with the strength that they have, with the hope of being able to assist them in training and preventing knee injuries. So pretty ambitious master's project.
So you are stationary assessing, or the assessment of the muscle capacity or muscle muscular control.
Strength and control. We're actually doing EMG as well, so it's coordination as well. Yes.
You do it on the dynamometer, and then you are doing it also here and correlating one to the other. Yes. That's interesting. Yeah.
I hope so. Yes.
Cool study.
Yeah, it is.
You have to be really careful with that eccentric movement and the
of course,
force and the torque.
And of course we are. I mean, there's a lot of safety features that we use to make sure that there's no injury risk to the subjects. I mean, that's first priority.
You're soon flying to Canada to participate in a super interesting study with dynamic X-ray. You are a subject this time. What is it?
Not just a subject, I'm part of the study as well.
Okay.
It's. I think you can date it back to the Karolinska Institute time again, when working with Arne Lundberg. He was an expert on foot kinematics, and he also very innovative ideas. And one of the ideas he had was with two X-ray tubes, but static. And by having a foot in this picture, you could do a static picture of it, then move the foot, take another picture, and then you could calculate how it had moved between these two pictures. But to assist in the analysis, if you had markers within the bones, you could have a lot more accurate tracking of the bones. And so we used this method where you have small tantalum metal beads inserted into the bone through the cortex invasively. And so in each bone you have to have at least 3 markers, same as with normal motion analysis, to be able to define it in 3 dimensions. And so we inserted these small beads into a number of different bones, took the double X-ray pictures, moved the foot, like I mentioned, took another picture and could calculate the movement between them. Now X-rays have developed a lot, like other imaging techniques, and it's now quite possible to do high quality dynamic X-ray imaging. And once again, if you have 2, you can do a 3-dimensional analysis. So there are a number, not many, but a few laboratories in the world that have built up walkways with double X-ray tubes to be able to do a 3D analysis of, for example, walking through the frames from the tubes. And there's a group in Queens, in Kingston, Canada, and Mike Rainbow that have got such a double X-ray setup. And I know Mike quite well, so I've already been there once to do this study, and I have these markers in my foot. So I was very interested, obviously, in the kinematics of the foot, but at the same time, I could be a subject, and quite a unique subject, which was really, really cool. And so there's a force plate and the 2 tubes, and you have to obviously hit the force plate and be quite accurate there. But it's a completely 3-dimensional X-ray analysis, and you don't just see the bones, you also see these markers in my foot. So it's pretty unique data. Then when I got back here, Mike started complaining. No, he didn't complain. He's got a few more questions, so we've been talking about continuing the study. But then he had this wish that he said, if we want to do the longitudinal valve, you obviously also need the hallux. And I didn't have any markers in the hallux. So I've actually been to see Arne Lundberg, and he's inserted a few more. So now I've got the hallux and metatarsal 5 as well. And so like you said, I'm going back in a few weeks and we're doing some more measurements. And it's really fascinating study because it's just such unique data, and the modeling that they get out of it is just a level that people haven't seen before. It's really exciting.
And it's really the bone movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what segments can be tracked on you?
I'm not quite sure, but like I mentioned, the hallux and the metatarsal 5, metatarsal 1, tibia, fibula, calcaneus and talus, definitely. Navicular cuboid and medial cuneiform. Not sure if I've got any of the other cuneiforms.
You don't even recall.
No, and I mean I don't feel them either. I don't notice anything. But it's just, it feels, I mean, it's not exciting because it's invasive. It's exciting because of the data we can get out of them, and it just wouldn't be possible. I think it will be in future. I think people will be able to do it by recognizing shapes, and that's already happening now. But I think for this initial validation and development of the method, it's crucial data to have. So it's fun to be part of.
It's fascinating, inspiring again, pushing boundaries.
Thanks.
Toni, there's another highlight coming up in 2021. You are co-hosting the ISB conference here in Stockholm during your own ISB presidency. That's cool.
That's exciting.
People should definitely come to Stockholm, shouldn't they?
Of course they should. No, that's really, really exciting. I've been part of ISB for a long time and have always enjoyed it and have quite a passion for it. And so for a while we've actually been thinking of applying to get it in Stockholm, but it's somehow never eventuated until last year. We got shortlisted, and representative from the Royal Institute of Technology and from Karolinska Institute and myself from here, so it's 3 universities that are co-hosting it, went to Dublin where the ISB had its executive council meeting, and we were allowed to present our bid. And it was like you see on TV with bids for Olympic Games and things, different bidders competing against each other. And so in the end, out of 3 different cities that were applying, we ended up winning it, and it was just fantastic.
And it's again the interdisciplinarity.
Yes, exactly. That's true. So we sort of based it on that. We thought Stockholm doesn't have one university that's big in biomechanics, but what the strength is that we have Karolinska Institute, which is very strong in medical, orthopedic biomechanics. We have KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology, which are fantastic and are really big and strong in technical, mechanical biomechanics. And then we have GIH, where the Swedish School of Sport and Health Sciences, which is a lot smaller, but are obviously experts in sports biomechanics. So we have 3 of the bigger fields that ISB is involved with, all represented in the same city. And by showing that we work together and can do a bid together and host it together, I think that's a real strength. And it's just, at the moment, it's so much fun thinking of the things that we can do to make people want to come to Stockholm, and of course have a very high quality scientific conference, but I think people would just love to come to Stockholm and have the conference here.
That's going to be great. I'm very sure.
I hope so.
We'll make sure
we're doing our best.
All right, Toni, thank you so much for this excellent, inspiring insight, or the insights into your work, into your life, into your CV, into your motivation. It's very, very inspiring, and I guess
thank you. Thanks.
We will all see you in Stockholm.
Yes, you're all welcome. you all have to come. I hope you all want to come, and thank you too. It's been really interesting, really fun talking.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.